It started with the little things, the kind of details you only notice when you're already paranoid, except I wasn't paranoid yet. At least that's what I kept telling myself. My wife, Melissa, always had her phone glued to her hand, but lately she'd started keeping it face down, locked tight, notifications silenced. She said it was because of work stress, too many emails buzzing at all hours, but the look in her eyes when I reached for it told a different story. Then there were the nights. At first once a week, then twice, then 3 times, late meetings, she called them, her lips pulling into that sharp little smile that used to melt me but now just felt rehearsed. I'd stay up waiting, pretending to watch TV, listening for the sound of her key in the lock. Sometimes she'd stumble in with wine on her breath, sometimes stone sober, always carrying that same faint perfume that wasn't hers. The turning point came one Thursday. She kissed me goodbye in the morning, said she'd be working late, but I left work early myself, some gut instinct chewing at me. I pulled into the driveway at 6 and there was her car, sitting neat in its spot like she hadn't left at all. My pulse jumped. I slipped inside quietly, shoes off, every nerve on fire. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the upstairs shower. Melissa's bag was on the counter, but her work laptop wasn't there, no files, no sign of a late-night grind. My stomach sank. I crept up the stairs, ears ringing with the sound of water behind the bathroom door. Then her phone buzzed on the dresser. I don't even know what pushed me, but I picked it up. Locked, of course. Yet on the screen one preview slipped through, an unknown number, no name saved. The message read, "See you at 8. Same place. Don't be late." I almost dropped it. Same place? Same place as where? I shoved the phone back down just as the water shut off, heart racing so fast I thought it would shake the walls. She stepped out minutes later, towel wrapped, humming a tune I didn't recognize, eyes soft like she hadn't just lied to my face hours ago. I played dumb, kissed her cheek, told her I'd grab takeout. She smiled, slipped into her robe, said she'd eat later. My hands shook all night, pretending I wasn't counting the minutes until 8 o'clock, wondering where the hell she really was going. When she finally left at 7:45, hair done, lipstick perfect, dressed in an outfit too sharp for an office late night, I waited 5 minutes and followed. My chest burned as I trailed her car 2 blocks back, headlights dimmed. She didn't head downtown to her office, didn't stop at the coffee place she loved, didn't even drive toward the company lot. She took the highway out of town 20 minutes north, into a part of the city I'd never seen her visit. Finally she pulled into a small brick building with no sign, just a plain door and shaded windows. She parked, checked her phone, then went inside like she belonged there. I sat in my car across the street, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles cracked, staring at that door. My wife was living a life I didn't know about, and I had no idea yet just how deep it went. I killed the engine and sat there in the dark, watching that plain brick building like it was breathing, like it had swallowed her whole. The windows gave nothing away, blacked out, no neon sign, no clue what kind of place it even was. My fingers drummed the steering wheel, pulse rattling my bones. At 8:03 I cracked, shoved the door open and crossed the street. The closer I got the stranger it felt. No markings, no hours, just that single metal door with a keypad lock. I pressed my ear against it, heart in my throat. Voices inside, low and muffled, but too many to make sense of. It didn't sound like an office. It didn't sound like a bar either. My hand hovered over the handle, and that's when it opened from the inside. I jerked back, nearly tripping, but the man who stepped out barely glanced at me. Mid-40s, suit too sharp for this part of town, an earpiece curling into his collar. He strode past like I didn't exist. The door swung slowly, and before it could shut I slipped in, adrenaline flooding every nerve. Inside was nothing I expected. A lounge maybe, but not casual. Dim lighting, velvet chairs, glass shelves lined with expensive liquor. And in the middle of it all, a poker table glowing under a single hanging lamp. My wife sat there like she belonged, cards in her hands, hair shining, lips curved in that same smile she hadn't shown me in months. Around the table were 4 men in tailored suits, chips stacked high, money in plain sight. My stomach dropped. Melissa wasn't working late. She was gambling. But it wasn't just that. The way the others looked at her, respectful, cautious, like she wasn't just another player but someone with status, made my skin crawl. She wasn't a guest here. She was part of it. One of the men cracked a joke, she laughed, raked in a pile of chips, and my head spun. Who the hell was this woman? I ducked into the shadows, hiding behind a half wall, ears straining. The words floated clear now. Stakes, payouts, names I didn't recognize. It wasn't friendly poker. It was business. Organized. Dangerous. My chest clenched as Melissa leaned forward, voice steady, saying, "You'll get the rest when the shipment clears." Don't push me on this. The table went quiet and I swear the air dropped 10 degrees. Shipment? Money? I pressed a fist to my mouth trying not to gasp. This wasn't about cards. This was something bigger. Something illegal. My wife didn't just have a secret hobby, she had a double life. And I just stepped straight into the middle of it. I crouched there, lungs tight, the smell of cigar smoke drifting into my nose while my brain scrambled to keep up. Melissa. My Melissa, the woman who still left sticky notes on the fridge reminding me to buy milk, was sitting at a table with men who looked like they'd sell their mothers for a profit. Her voice was firm, almost cold, nothing like the gentle tone she used at home. The shipment clears, you get paid. Until then, my word is enough, she said, sliding chips across the table like they were IOUs instead of plastic. One of the men, bald with a scar curling down his cheek, leaned back and laughed. Your word better be worth something, sweetheart. We don't like delays. I expected her to shrink, to soften, to deflect the way she always did with conflict, but instead she met his stare head-on. Then don't waste my time sitting here if you don't trust me. My jaw went slack. Who the hell was this woman? The scarred man eventually smirked, raised his glass in mock surrender, and tossed a card onto the felt. The game continued, laughter bubbling again, but it wasn't real laughter. It was sharp, heavy, the kind you hear right before things go sideways. I edged further into the shadow of the half-wall, my phone burning in my pocket. My instincts screamed to record everything, but my fingers refused to move. One photo, one video, and if anyone spotted me, I was dead. Instead I listened, piecing together fragments. There were mentions of docks, of containers, of a buyer waiting overseas. Words like cut, shipment, laundering. My pulse hammered in my ears. Melissa was deep into something criminal, something organized, not just a card game but a whole machine. And she wasn't on the fringe of it, she was in the middle. Every time someone questioned her, she snapped back, confident, commanding, like she'd been doing this for years. At one point she leaned over to collect her winnings and a slim black notebook slipped from her purse. A man at the table bent to grab it, but she snatched it back so fast it startled even him. That's private, she said sharply, tucking it away. The way they all went quiet told me the book was more than notes. It was leverage, maybe even power. I pressed harder into the wall, heart hammering, mind flipping through every detail of the last few months. The late nights, the perfume, the locked phone, the new clothes. None of it pointed to another man. It pointed here. To this life. To this woman I didn't recognize. An hour crawled by, my knees aching, sweat trickling down my spine while the game wound down. Melissa gathered her chips, slipped them into her bag and stood, her expression unreadable. Same time next week, she said like she was the host dismissing guests. The men nodded, some with smirks, some with narrowed eyes. One muttered, if you make it that long. She didn't flinch. My wife who once cried when she dented the car, didn't flinch. She strode to the door, heels sharp against the floor, and vanished into the night. I waited a full minute before daring to move, my body shaking with adrenaline. Then I slipped out, heart in my throat, scanning the street until I spotted her car pulling away. I ran to mine, started the engine with trembling hands and followed from a distance. Every red light felt like a test, every lane changed like a dare. She didn't head home right away. Instead she drove across town, pulled into a small storage lot, and disappeared into Unit 17. I killed my lights, parked behind a dumpster and waited, pulse rattling my teeth. 15 minutes later she came back out carrying a black duffel bag so heavy she had to use both hands. She shoved it into the trunk, slammed it shut and finally turned toward home. I followed her all the way back, parked 2 blocks away, and sat there staring at our warm, perfect little house while she walked inside like nothing had happened. No hesitation. No guilt. No trace of the woman I'd just seen playing cards with criminals and hauling God knows what in a duffel bag. My hands clenched the wheel until my fingers hurt. My wife didn't just have secrets, she had an entire second life. And somehow, without realizing it, I had married a stranger. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint rustle of Melissa moving around downstairs, wondering if she was hiding that duffel bag, if she was writing in that black notebook, if she was even the same woman I'd married or just someone who wore her skin. Every sound made me flinch. At 3 a.m. she finally crept upstairs, slipped beneath the covers smelling faintly of smoke and perfume, kissed my shoulder like she always did. I pretended to be asleep, muscles locked, heart thudding loud enough I was sure she could hear. Her breathing slowed, steady and calm, but mine never did. By morning she was gone before my alarm rang, no note, no coffee mug, just silence. My chest burned as I padded downstairs and found her keys missing, her purse gone. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through contacts, my thumb hovering over my buddy Kevin's number. But how the hell was I supposed to say it? Hey man, my wife might be in the mob? No. Nobody would believe me. So I did what any idiot with too much adrenaline and too little common sense would do. I decided to follow her again. By 9 I was 2 cars behind her silver sedan on the highway, nerves twisting me into knots. She wasn't heading to her office downtown. She took the opposite direction out toward the docks. My pulse spiked. The docks. She turned down a side street littered with warehouses, rusted signs, and fences topped with barbed wire. I hung back, parked behind a row of trucks, and watched as she pulled into a gated lot. A guard in a black jacket waved her through without a word. My stomach lurched. She was expected. She belonged here. I slid out of my car and crept closer on foot, weaving between parked trailers until I had a clear view of the lot. Melissa stood near a shipping container painted dull red, talking to the scarred man from the poker game. They weren't flirting, weren't even arguing. They were negotiating. She pulled out that same black notebook, flipped to a page, jabbed her finger at something written, then pointed at the container. He nodded, barked an order at 2 guys in work boots, and they pried the container open. From where I crouched I couldn't see what was inside, but the metallic clank and the way one of them adjusted his gloves made my stomach turn. Melissa scribbled something in the notebook, shut it, and handed the scarred man a thick envelope. He tucked it into his coat, smirked, and walked off. She lingered a moment, staring at the container's contents, her face unreadable, then snapped the lock shut herself before striding back to her car. I crouched lower, every nerve buzzing. My wife was running something out of the docks. Not a side hustle. Not a harmless secret hobby. Something criminal. Something dangerous. My phone nearly slipped out of my sweaty hands as I typed a single word into my notes app. Evidence. I needed proof. Photos, video, anything. But as I raised my phone to snap a picture, the guard's head swiveled in my direction. Our eyes locked for a split second before I ducked behind the truck, chest seizing. I waited, breath ragged, every second dragging like an hour. When I peeked again, the lot was empty. Melissa's car was gone. I stumbled back to my car, adrenaline shaking my bones, and sat behind the wheel staring at the steering column. She wasn't working late, she wasn't having an affair. She was running operations out of warehouses with men who looked like they'd kill me for sneezing too loud. And I had no idea how long she'd been doing it, or how many lies I'd swallowed without blinking. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the house looked different. Like a stage set, like every memory inside had been scripted. I unlocked the door, stepped into the quiet kitchen, and that's when I saw it, the black notebook, just sitting on the counter. Open, a page filled with numbers, names, and addresses I didn't recognize. My pulse slammed in my ears. This was it. Proof. But as I reached for it, headlights swept across the window. Melissa's car pulled into the driveway. My fingers hovered an inch above the paper and my whole body screamed, "Grab it or pretend you never saw it." My hand trembled above the notebook, every instinct split in two. One half screamed at me to grab it, hide it, run upstairs and copy every word before she walked in. The other half hissed that if she caught me, I wouldn't even make it through the night. The crunch of her tires on gravel tightened my chest until it hurt. I snatched my phone, snapped 3 quick photos of the open page, and flipped the cover shut just as the front door creaked open. Melissa's heels clicked on the floor, her voice floating and casual as anything. "Babe? You home?" I shoved the phone into my pocket, forcing my breath steady. "Yeah, just got in." She appeared in the doorway, hair perfect, smile sweet, like she hadn't been handing off envelopes to men who looked like they belonged in prison. She walked right up and kissed me, eyes soft, lips warm. My stomach flipped because now every touch felt like a performance. "You eat yet?" she asked, slipping her bag onto the counter right next to the notebook. She didn't even glance at it, like leaving her secrets in plain sight meant nothing. I mumbled something about leftovers and grabbed a glass of water to hide the shake in my hand. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I nearly dropped the glass. She turned to hang her coat and I slid the phone out just enough to check the screen. A new text from that same unknown number. "Careful. She's testing you." My throat closed. Testing me? My wife poured herself a glass of wine, leaned on the counter, and asked how my day was. She watched me too closely, her eyes sharp under the sweetness, and I realized the message was right. She was looking for cracks, trying to see if I knew. I forced a smile, told her the usual boring story about emails and traffic, and she laughed, relaxed, sipping her drink. The notebook stayed between us like a live grenade. She flipped it shut with one hand almost casually and slid it back into her bag. "I've got some work upstairs," she said lightly. "Don't wait up." She kissed my cheek and headed toward the stairs. My jaw ached from holding in every question, every scream. The second she disappeared, I pulled out my phone and opened the photos. Rows of numbers, names with initials, dates. One entry made my blood run cold. Pier 47, Friday, 11:30. That was tomorrow. Tomorrow she'd be at the docks again. I sat there until the house went silent, until her footsteps faded above me, and then I typed a message to that unknown number. Who are you? What is she into? The reply came fast. If you want answers, be at Pier 47. Don't let her see you. Don't tell her you know. One wrong move and you're finished. I set the phone down, staring at my reflection in the dark kitchen window, and whispered to myself the only truth left. My wife wasn't just lying to me. She was living another life. And tomorrow I'd either find out who she really was, or I wouldn't make it back at all. The hours crawled like molasses, every tick of the clock dragging me closer to a night I wasn't sure I'd survive. Friday came wrapped in gray skies and damp air, the kind that seeps into your clothes and bones, and by 10 I was already parked 3 blocks from Pier 47, palms slick against the steering wheel. The docks loomed through the fog, cranes and containers stacked like giant tombstones, gulls screeching overhead. I told myself I could still back out, drive away, pretend Melissa was just stressed, pretend the notebook was nothing, but my phone buzzed at 10:45. Move now. Stay out of sight. I slipped out of the car, hoodie up, heart hammering. The closer I got, the more wrong it all felt. Men in dark jackets stood in pairs near the fences, smoking, talking low, watching the lot like guards. A truck rumbled slowly out, its headlights cutting through mist, and beyond it I caught sight of her, Melissa. She was standing beside the scarred man again, notebook in hand, her posture calm, commanding. The sight of her there, so at ease among them, twisted my gut. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't pretending. She belonged. I crouched behind a stack of crates, listening. Their voices carried faint through the wind. Container offloaded at midnight, the scarred man said, flicking ash from his cigarette. Payment clears here. Melissa nodded, flipped the notebook, scribbled something, then gestured at a smaller group of men hauling boxes onto a dolly. My chest tightened as I squinted, trying to see the markings on the boxes. Not food. Not clothes. Weapons. The stenciled outlines of rifles clear as day. My mouth went dry. My wife wasn't running poker games. She was running guns. My phone buzzed. I flinched so hard the crate rattled. I yanked it out quick, shielding the glow. New message, get photo evidence. Do not get caught. My stomach dropped. I slid my phone up, zoomed the camera, and snapped quick shots of Melissa, the scarred man, the boxes. My hands shook so bad the images blurred, but the proof was there. I tucked the phone back just as Melissa looked around, her eyes scanning the fog. For a heartbeat I thought she'd spotted me. I held my breath, frozen. But she just nodded to the scarred man and strode toward her car, duffel bag swinging from her hand. I let out a shaky breath, ready to crawl back, when a rough voice growled behind me, "What the fuck you think you're doing?" Cold metal pressed against my neck, gun barrel. My knees went weak. 2 men yanked me up, dragging me from the shadows, shoving me forward into the open lot. Melissa had just reached her car. She turned at the commotion, her eyes landing on me, widening in shock. The notebook slipped from her hand, pages fanning in the wind. The scarred man's smirk was pure venom. Well. Looks like the husband couldn't mind his own business. My pulse pounded so loud I barely heard him. Melissa's face went pale, lips parted, like the world had just tilted under her feet. And in that moment I knew, the double life I thought I'd uncovered was only the edge of something bigger. Something that might get us both killed. The scarred man shoved me forward until I stumbled into the center of the lot, gravel biting through my sneakers, 2 guys gripping my arms like vices. The barrel pressed against my neck dug in harder, the chill of it cutting deeper than the fog. My chest heaved, eyes darting everywhere until they locked on her. Melissa. She stood frozen by her car, that black notebook lying in the dirt at her feet, pages flapping in the wind like they wanted to scream the truth from me. Her face was a mask I couldn't read, shock, anger, fear, maybe all 3, but her eyes burned into mine, and I swear I saw a silent plea, "Don't say a word." The scarred man circled me like a shark, slow, deliberate, his grin wide. "You know this little rat?" he asked Melissa, jerking his thumb at me. His tone made my skin crawl. She swallowed, smoothed her hair back and said calmly, "He's nobody. Just some drunk who wandered too far from the bar. I'll handle it." My jaw clenched. Nobody? My wife just erased me in front of them like we'd never shared a bed, never laughed at stupid sitcoms, never made plans for vacations we'd never take. My throat burned to shout the truth, to expose her, but the gun pressed harder and my survival instinct screamed louder. The scarred man chuckled. Funny, 'cause he's been watching us. Phones out, hands twitching like a rat sniffing for crumbs. He leaned closer, breath sour, eyes cutting. Who sent you, huh? Cops? Vets? Or are you just too curious for your own good? My pulse roared, drowning everything. Before I could stammer a denial, Melissa stepped forward, her voice steady. He's not with anyone. Trust me. I'll deal with him. The way she said it, sharp, commanding, made even the guards pause. She was bargaining for me. Scarface studied her, then laughed low. You vouch for him, he's your problem. But if he opens his mouth, he dragged a finger across his throat, slow and cruel, both of you are finished. He waved his men off. The barrel lifted from my neck, air rushing back into my lungs. My legs shook but didn't give. Melissa strode over, grabbed my arm like she was furious and hissed under her breath, "Get in the car. Now." They let her drag me, their eyes still burning holes in my back. My heart jackhammered as we slid into her sedan, the door slamming like a gunshot. She floored it out of the lot, silence so thick I could barely breathe. My hands shook in my lap, the taste of metal on my tongue, but when I turned to her I saw something worse than rage. Her eyes glistened, jaw clenched, every line of her face screaming desperation. Finally she snapped, voice cracking through the quiet, "Why the fuck couldn't you just stay out of it?" The engine roared as she tore through the empty streets, tires screeching on every corner, her knuckles white on the wheel. My heart was still slamming from the gun at my neck, but her words cut deeper. Stay out of it? I spun toward her, voice breaking. Stay out of it? You're running guns out of shipping containers, Melissa. I thought you were cheating, I thought maybe it was Derek or some shit, but this is worse. Who the hell are you? Her jaw clenched tighter, eyes flicking from the road to me, her chest heaving like she was holding back a dam. You don't get it, she snapped. You were never supposed to see any of this. I laughed bitterly, half hysterical. Yeah, no kidding. Husbands usually don't get invited to poker night with the mob. She slammed the brakes at a red light, threw the car into park and finally looked at me full on. Her eyes weren't the warm hazel I knew, they were steel. Listen to me, she said low and sharp. If you love me you will shut the fuck up and listen. Because if you open your mouth, if you breathe this to anyone, we are both dead. Do you understand? My skin went cold. She wasn't bluffing. She wasn't exaggerating. The fear in her voice was real, but so was the authority. Like she'd been living in this world for years, surviving by balancing on a knife's edge. My lips parted, words tumbling out. How long? How long have you been doing this? Her eyes flickered, then dropped to her hands. The light turned green and she drove on, slower now, like her anger had burned into exhaustion. Since before I met you, she whispered. The words hit me like a car crash. My chest hollowed out. Before? You mean our entire marriage, everything, was a lie? She shook her head violently. No. Us, what we had, that was real. Is real. But the other life? I couldn't leave it. They wouldn't let me. Once you're in, you don't just walk away. Her grip on the wheel tightened, voice breaking. I tried. God, I tried. But they own everything. My debts, my family, my freedom. They made me useful. The world blurred outside the window, neon signs streaking past. I wanted to scream, to smash my fist through the glass, but all I could do was choke out. Useful how? Running weapons? Laundering money? What else aren't you telling me? She slammed the wheel with her palm, tears spilling down her cheeks now. Everything okay? Everything you don't want to know. I've brokered deals with people who could erase you in an hour. I've sat across from men who would kill their own brothers for half the cash I hand them. I keep it away from you because I thought I could protect you. But now, she shot me a glance, raw and furious. Now you're part of it because they saw your face. And if you don't play along, you'll end up in the ground and I'll be right there beside you. Silence crushed the car. My mouth opened but no words came out. My wife wasn't just cheating, lying, hiding. She'd built an entire second existence, one soaked in crime and shadows, and the only reason I'd survived tonight was because she claimed me as nobody. I turned to the window, hands trembling, whispering more to myself than her. So what the fuck happens now? Melissa didn't answer me right away. She just drove, rain starting to splatter against the windshield, wipers squealing back and forth in an uneven rhythm. Her silence was worse than any confession. Finally, at a deserted stretch of highway, she pulled the car over, killed the engine, and sat there gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering her to earth. Her breathing was ragged, her hair falling loose around her face, mascara smeared under her eyes. For a moment she looked small again, fragile, like the woman I'd known. Then she turned to me, voice low and steady. What happens now is you keep your head down. You act normal. You don't tell anyone. You go to work, you smile, and you pretend I'm the same woman you married. My throat burned. You think I can pretend after watching you trade money with gangsters and haul guns out of containers? You think I can lie in bed next to you and not wonder if tonight's the night someone kicks down our door? Her face twisted, pain and fury colliding. You think I wanted this? You think I asked for this life? I was 19, broke, drowning in debt, and one stupid favor turned into chains I can't break. They've owned me ever since. She dragged her hands down her face, muttering, and now they own you too. The words made my stomach twist. Own me? No. I didn't agree to this shit. I pounded my fist against the dashboard, shaking. You lied to me, Melissa. For years. Every late night, every fake meeting, every kiss goodnight, you were hiding this. Were you ever honest with me at all? Her lip trembled, but her eyes stayed locked on mine. Yes, I loved you. I still do. That's the only real thing I've had in years. But don't you get it? That's exactly why they let me keep you. They knew I'd never run, never betray them, not if it meant keeping you alive. Your leverage. My anchor. My punishment. The words hollowed me out. I wanted to scream, to tear my skin off, to run until the world disappeared. Instead I just sat there shaking, staring at the rain streaking down the glass. The silence stretched until my phone buzzed in my pocket. My blood ran cold. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Another message from the unknown number. Now you understand. She chose you. Keep her secret or bury her. I snapped my head toward her. It's them. They've been texting me, guiding me, watching me. Her face paled, eyes wide. You, what did you do? What did you answer? I asked who they were. I asked about you. They told me to follow. They told me not to speak or I'd destroy you. Melissa, who the fuck are they? Her hands shook as she grabbed the wheel again, knuckles white. Not who. What? They're bigger than you can imagine. And if they're talking to you directly, it means they've already decided. She cut herself off, slammed the car into gear and floored it back onto the highway. Decided what? I shouted, my chest about to explode. She glanced at me, eyes wet, jaw locked. Decided whether you live, or whether they use you. The car ate up miles of wet highway, every raindrop drumming louder than my pulse, until Melissa veered off onto a back road I didn't recognize. Trees crowded in on both sides, black shapes bending over the asphalt, like the world was closing in. She hadn't spoken since she said those words, decided whether you live or whether they use you, and every second of silence was a blade across my nerves. My phone buzzed again. I flinched so hard it almost fell from my hand. New message, almost there. Don't fight. I spun toward her, panic rising. Where the hell are you taking me? She kept her eyes on the road, knuckles strangling the wheel. Somewhere safe, she whispered, but her voice cracked, betraying the lie. The trees parted and a warehouse loomed ahead, floodlights blazing, gates already open like they were waiting. My stomach turned to ice. She pulled in, tires splashing through puddles, and killed the engine. The silence pressed in. I stared at her, throat dry. This is it, isn't it? You're delivering me to them. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. If I didn't, they'd kill you. At least this way, maybe you'll have a chance. The door beside me yanked open before I could respond. Rough hands dragged me out into the rain, shoving me toward the warehouse. Melissa followed, her face a pale mask, lips trembling but sealed shut. Inside, the air reeked of oil and rust. Men in suits stood along the walls, shadows sharp under the lights. At the center, a long table. And at the head of it, a man I'd never seen before, gray hair slicked back, rings glittering on his fingers, eyes cold enough to freeze blood. He smiled thinly. So this is the husband. His voice was smooth, patient, the kind you hear from someone who's already decided your fate. I was shoved into a chair, hands bound behind me, heart trying to hammer its way out of my chest. He tapped the table with one finger. You've seen too much. Normally we'd bury you. But, his gaze slid to Melissa. She has proven useful. Loyal. She says you can be too. I stared at her, betrayal choking me. She couldn't even meet my eyes. The man leaned closer, his breath calm, measured. Those messages on your phone? That was us. We wanted to see if you'd listen, if you could follow orders without knowing why. You did. That makes you valuable. He sat back, smile widening just a hair. So here's your choice. You join her world, keep your mouth shut and serve. Or you walk out those doors in a bag. Decide now. The room spun, rain hammering the roof, Melissa's silent tears cutting me deeper than the ropes biting into my wrists. Every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to spit in his face. But her eyes, those eyes I'd once trusted with my whole life, begged me not to. And in that moment I realized the cruelest truth of all. I hadn't uncovered my wife's secret life. She dragged me into it. And now, whether I said yes or no, I was already theirs.